He's raced everything from champ cars to Indy cars to, of course, stock cars and much, much more. And now Casey Mears is trying to reach a huge milestone. We're going to catch up with him on NASCAR Daily. We made it to Friday, everybody. It's Darlington weekend. We're also going to tell you where you can watch all of the action. But first, we got to catch up with my friend Casey Mears. Hasn't made a start since 2019 in the Cup Series. We saw him this past weekend, and now he's here on NASCAR Daily. I feel like 2025 is like a retro year. And when I saw Casey Mears was going to be making a start in the Cup Series, I got so excited. I've known Casey, oh my gosh, for more than 20 years. And so to see you back in the garage, dude, it was real. What was that like when I got back into NASCAR, when I went back into the garage for the first time, it was like walking through the halls of my high school. What was that experience like for you?
That's probably one of the best analogies I've heard, to be honest. I mean, I've dabbled, going to a few races here and there, over the last, 10 years and saw people that I haven't seen in quite a while, but this is the first time that I really immersed myself back into the garage and just, being around all the old NASCAR officials and being in the sport for so long. You know how this is. It's kind of like a revolving door, of people going to different teams, different programs, for different reasons. And I don't think I could go to one organization or one team and not know 10 or 15 people that are, at that shop or with that organization. So, yeah, just catching up with everybody again and seeing faces that I haven't seen in a long time and from top to bottom, really, from the grandstands to NASCAR to the teams, there was just so many people that, gosh, I hadn't seen in quite a while. And it was a lot of fun catching up and being a part of the whole thing again.
I always find that, when you're in it and you're in the grind of 10, 11 months and doing, and back in the day when you were there at testing and sponsor stuff, and you don't really get a grasp of just how much of a family NASCAR really is. And then when you go back to the garage and you walk through and you see everybody and you realize how happy they are to see you and to say hello. Did you experience that?
I did, and that was fun, because you're right. When your head's down and you're just getting after it and you're trying to compete week in and week out. I mean, you rarely. I think somebody once said, every now and then just take a second and just look up.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
just look up. If you, it's so hard to just take a second and soak it all in when you're in the heat of it. And that's what's nice about this deal. I know that. Coming back, that it was going to be difficult to compete and be competitive. Obviously the teams, there's so many good teams, so many good programs out there, and the fashion that we did it with Carl, such a great guy. Carl's
Mhm.
been around forever, and I love talking with him, love chatting with him, and catching up. But there's no doubt he's trying to do something that's very difficult. I mean, he's got like 9 people that work for him. He's got a car, and
Mhm.
they put that sucker together and go to the track. But although we didn't have a chance to really compete well, it was a whole different reason to come to the track this weekend, and I was really able to soak that in.
Yeah, so is it a different, like, what's the pressure? I mean, you race Ganassi, Hendrick, right? Like, high pressure situations for you to
Right.
go out and compete and win races and finish in the top 10. Like, what was I mean, it's got to be like a different kind of pressure. And did that allow you to maybe have a little more fun behind the wheel of the car and enjoy it a little bit more? Look up?
Yeah, I did. I think everything surrounding all that, I really did. I got a chance to really take it in and have fun. I mean, I'm there for a different reason now, right? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
you want to go out and compete, be successful, have fun, in the car. I got to say that, I'm still a competitive person. I still want to go out and do really well. And as soon as I got in the car and it wasn't good, I was like, oh gosh, dang, you still have those moments.
Yeah.
But it's a totally different way of looking at it. I didn't wear it on my shoulders like I would have in the past, and soaked it in for what it was, and like I said, just enjoyed the weekend.
So you're at 490 starts and your goal now is to get to 500. But when you stepped away in 2016 was your last full-time season, you raced the Daytona 500 in 2019. So you had no idea that you were that close to the 500 mark.
No, even at that moment,
Mhm.
it's one thing I've never done. I've never really paid attention to stats. I've always just chased the best result week in and week out, and just never thought about it. And then I think you may have heard the story, but Jimmy was testing again in the Cup
Mhm.
car after being in the Indy car. I was out at Phoenix, and I can't remember who it was, but they asked me, "Hey, you've been around for a long time. You have 400 or 498 starts or 99 starts," and I go. or not 90. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
489.
400, yeah,
I'm getting my
89.
numbers mixed up, but
It's all
489.
right.
And I
107
remember,
in Xfinity Series if you count that too,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably quite a few if I count them all, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm walking away from that interview, and gosh, dang, it dawned on me. I never realized I was that close to 500, and what kind of a cool milestone would that be to make? And really started just kind of throwing it out there in the garage a little bit when I'd go to the Phoenix races, and reached out to a couple people, and it never really stuck. I mean, I've been out of the sport for quite a while, and
Mhm.
never really grabbed any traction. And then after talking to Carl, he wanted to try to put something together, and here we are.
Do you have any, like, I wanna try to get it done in a year or 2, like, how long will you go? Because I know it's gonna kinda pop up one here, one there.
Right. I mean, it's anybody's guess, really, right?
Yeah.
It's such a tough landscape right now. With It's amazing, the charters, and it's I love seeing the charters have value like they do now. I think it's so great for the teams and team owners. But for a guy like me trying to piece together, a handful of races, when you got 36 guys that are fully chartered, and you're probably not going to get into one of those, there's very few outliers that could really pull this off and try to make it happen. So it's a difficult landscape to make it happen. So right now I'm just kind of feeling it out, trying to find out who could even facilitate, doing these races. And does it turn into, 3 or 4, this year, and then maybe try to finish it off next year? Is it a 3-year program?
Yeah.
I think in an ideal situation, if I could put something together soon, it'd be nice to get, the other 9,
Yeah.
this season, and then go into the Daytona 500, and,
Yeah.
cap out 500 start there. That would be
That'd be
pretty
cool.
amazing. But and of course, that's a dream world, so we'll see how it all plays out.
I mean, you gotta put it out there, right? It's speak it into existence. What do you have next? Like, do you have another one this year? Sorry, because I thought you were racing at Darlington, and I saw that one's not happening.
No, no, I don't have anything planned.
Okay.
We're I mean, there's a lot of balls up in the air right now, and I would be
Yeah.
surprised if something didn't transpire after this weekend, that to do another one or two at some point. I'd really like to do Sonoma. I have a sponsor that in AccuSure Protection Group, that's a good location for them.
That'd be cool.
A lot of other things have to come together to make that happen. But I'd really like to do that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think the road courses and the street circuits, like at Chicago, the super speedways, those are all places that you can take, a possible lower budget program and maybe get a little bit more out of it. So
Yep.
I'm focused on that.
I how closely I know you and I worked at Race Hub for a long time together, and then, like, one day you just walked in, you were like, "Hey, I'm moving to Phoenix," and we're like, "Wait, what?" So, like,
Yeah.
how much have you watched the sport lately? I heard the funny story about Carson Hocevar, which did
Yeah.
not surprise me, by the way. I'm a huge fan of that kid.
Yeah.
I think he's got a great personality, but tell that story, and how closely have you kind of followed the sport over the years?
I'm not as close as you would think,
Mhm.
watching it. I've been chasing a lot of cheer competitions and baseball games these days,
Yeah.
on the weekends. And but when I'm home, I'm definitely tuning in and watching the races. And I mean, I'll always have a passion for the sport and a love for it, and want to keep up with it enough to understand the high spots of what's going on. But honestly, I'm really happy with. I mean, I watch the races, and I think they're really entertaining. It's a lot of fun to watch these days. I love the stage racing and stuff like that, where it
Mhm.
creates a little bit of excitement through the middle. Um, but yeah, so I've been keeping up with things, and I've been watching, that Carson kind of get a little heat from time to time, but you can't deny his talent. I mean, he's up there running up front with these guys, and going in there and rubbing shoulders maybe a little harder than he should at times, but he's making a statement, which is cool. And he got me mixed up with somebody else on the track.
Oh, is that his story? Is
That
that
was
his
his
story?
story. I think he was. I'd probably make something up too in that scenario, but yeah, I think I let him go, because shoot, I'm trying to figure it out again. I haven't been on the track in a while, and the car's not quite right. And he flipped me off down the straightaway, and I was like, "Dang, that's a little early to get one of those." You know what I mean? I used to get them in the past, and I dealt them to a few people myself, but I thought, shoot, I've only been out here for about 5 laps, and I'm already getting the bird. And so it just so happened he qualified. Must be where he's sitting in points. I don't know, but he qualified like right after me, so I got a chance to chat with him a little bit about that. And he was super cool kid. And I just, told him, it's probably not a good idea, and I
Mhm.
used to do that. And I mean, I stopped doing that because, and I
Flipping
remember
people off?
yeah, it was me and like Elliott Sadler and Dell Jr. and even Jimmy would throw some pretty heavy birds at the time. It went rampant there for a while, and we started realizing that there's nothing that pisses you off more than getting
Yeah.
flipped off when you're in the race car, and if you can catch that guy, you're going to crash him and then think about the consequences later.
Yeah.
And you got to give a guy, you need to be at least 10 or 15 laps faster than that guy, to let it wear off. And so I kind of had that conversation with him. And anyway, we kind of chuckled and went on. But no, he's a big talent, and
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to do good things in the future.
Before I let you go, what have you been up to? I mean, I follow you on social media. It really looks like you're living your best life ever. You mentioned cheer competitions and
Yeah.
baseball, of course, your son and your daughter. So actively involved in terms of being a dad and a husband. So what else have you got going on?
That's I would say that's 90% of it.
That's
Really
great.
chasing the kids around, and Trish and I spending time together. We really love being out in the Scottsdale area. I mean, the summers are hot, but outside of that, 8 months out of the year, we got our doors open in the morning when we wake up, and really just enjoying life and having fun.
I
I
love it.
about I've constantly been thinking about what's next. Being in motorsports for so long, it's so hard to think about what that next avenue might have been. I really loved being, when we were doing Race Hub and doing that kind of stuff. That seemed like maybe a good avenue for me. But when we made that change to go to Phoenix, obviously that part went away.
Hmm.
And I'm still constantly searching. And we did one thing we did do that was a lot of fun. We Paradise Valley is kind of a prominent area in Scottsdale, and we did a spec home with a builder. As an investment, and going through that process and being really heavily involved in the build was a lot of fun. I did get my contractor's license. Trish didn't get.
Hey, look at
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So maybe we dabble a little bit more in that. I don't know, but right now the priority is the kids, and getting the most out of it. And that's one thing I can say. I didn't when I decided to pull away, I didn't want to be running around in the back in something that was less than desirable to drive, right? And I saw that's where my career was going. And the last thing I
Hmm.
wanted to do was run around week in, week out, be away from my kids, not make the money that
Hmm.
I probably should be making. And you're out there kind of putting your health on the line, right? I've never really thought about it from that perspective, but as soon as you're spending time away from your kids, and you're not running competitive and it's no fun, well, in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, why am I going to put myself in that situation?
Yep.
Um, Things are different now. There's a different goal that I'm trying to achieve, but in that moment, I think it was the best thing I could have ever done was get away. And the years that I've gotten to spend with my kids and see them growing up and be right at the forefront of their lives, it's been pretty cool to look back on it now.
I love that. Well, there's a lot of new TV partners, so maybe we'll see you on a desk somewhere at a racetrack, and I hope I'm there covering your 500 start, Casey, because that'd be awesome. I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, really good to see you, Shannon. Glad to see you
Yeah,
doing so well, and
yeah,
hopefully we can catch up soon.
I would love it. I would love it. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Always love catching up with my old friend Casey. It's so great to see him, and let's get him to 500. Why don't we? Let's get to Darlington. Why don't we as well? Big weekend of racing. Can't wait to see everything break down. And I will be back here on Monday with the winner, and we'll get to talk everything from the Lady in Black this weekend at Darlington, South Carolina. Have a great weekend, everyone. Be safe.